One of the things that I find really fascinating is to think or to look at what the labor force is going to look like in 20 years from now. And a lot of the jobs that are in existence today are not going to be there tomorrow due to artificial intelligence or robotics. Is that part of the curriculum that you all have? So, I mean, I think that the people that go through your academy have a leg up because, they're able to start businesses and they're able to be the decision makers as opposed to falling victim to whatever job is eliminated next. Is that something that you all think about?
Do you want to go, Ashley?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
I think for sure. Yeah. I mean, it is what we think about. We look at the trends constantly, and we have our students looking at the trends, which is a different way to think for a young person. Is how, to age myself. I mean, we have to get them to think of like outside of just what the here and now is, what's going to happen in the next week, but what's going to happen in the future, and get them to think that way. And so I think the fact that our students are taught to forecast and look at the future and look at the trends, I think that they will be better off in the future because they know that what's happening, or they know how to look at those things.
Actually, and that's something we kind of, I know for me, like from my perspective, when we first started this program, I was really just more focused on, okay, let's brainstorm, what ideas do you have for potential businesses? And it was missing that forecasting piece, that looking at trends. And so my very first year, I had a lot of business ideas that were very much just in a high school, like their little bubble. Like I had groups that were like, I lose my pencil. Like we need a product that will help me remember my pencil, and it's like when they really did the research and looked, is this a viable idea? They really came back and were like, well, no, people don't really, there's not like a wide customer base that wants this product that's gonna, do this thing. So through time in teaching the class, now we really start off the year with what is happening, in our community, what's happening, around the world, and what is something, that is trending, and they kind of take that into consideration. They still are operating within their own little bubble, but we really encourage them to be looking at those types of things.
So is it fair to say that historically, the way that a curriculum was developed is look at the jobs of now and think that the students will go into that job? And now you guys are saying that you're looking at what kind of job is a student potentially going to be in that might even not be here yet, and incorporating and collaborating with them to really teach towards that. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And how to create their own opportunities, because looking at the needs that are out there for not just themselves, but for other people, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It's right, filling a need in an area where, people are going to want to buy or purchase a product. So I think that getting them to think in that direction is probably one of the most important things that we do. And unfortunately, through school, if you go through 12 years, right, like it's kind of like test, you got to get these grades to get into this college. It's still like that. And they get into our classes, and I'll tell you what, even as ninth graders, they struggle because we're having them critically think about, like, there's not a bubbled answer of A, B, or C, or D that's right. It's, how do you critically think about these problems, these issues, these needs, to develop a solution around them? And that's very anti what education has been for the last couple years. I definitely think we're trending more in this direction as a whole, but we definitely encourage the students to think differently here.
And if you really think about business has 50,000 answers to it, which is not what the, quote unquote, what the norm would be. And so I think that's interesting that would be done that way, because I think that's how in the real world, that's the answer, right? The answer isn't, A. The answer is A to Z times 4.
So do you all think that you will catch heat, if you will, if when some students graduate from high school and they opt to start their own business versus go to college?
No, I hope they do. I really want them I want them to pursue what they are interested in pursuing. I think there's definitely a population who are looking at academy programs and want to see that our students are getting accepted into these top universities. So that becomes something that I have to promote just to attract an audience in. But I definitely hope that I also, on the flip side of that sheet of, the 4-year institutions that our students are going to, I hope on the flip side, I'm like, these are also the businesses they created and this is where they are now.
That's great.